From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go. It's another edition of the 50/50 Podcast, episode 119. I am proud to be joined. Good friend of mine, gentleman who I have tremendous amount of respect for as a coach, has a great soccer mind, and we can never, I kidded about it earlier, we can never have a quick conversation. So very excited about this episode. I am joined by the head women's soccer coach of the McKinney Boyd Broncos, Coach Elias Ramos. Coach, how are you?
Doing well, man. Beautiful Monday. Great weather up here in DFW.
Yeah.
Low 80s today, so it's like
yeah, it was great down here too. It was great down here in San Antonio as well. So tell us, how were things? How was your day? You were telling me a little bit offline, right? You had an extra busy day today.
Yeah, it was a full day. We go to school 7:30 to 2:30 ish. Then we stayed after. We got some new goals, new like soccer goals, competition goals. So stayed after with a couple of the girls, and we built those today, and then capped it off with meet the teacher. So.
Sweet.
Finally got that out of the way. That's always one checkbox to get done. So
yeah. So 7:30 to 2:30, right? What is how does that play out? What is that like as far as that schedule? Is that you like it? What's your take us through that?
It's pros and cons to it. I'm a morning person, so I don't really mind it. However, it is early. So for the kids, so our juniors and seniors, for the most part, a lot of them have late arrival, so they don't mind it too bad. The beautiful thing about it is, even like when we're in season, we have 7th period athletics.
Okay.
We don't have to worry about going in the morning. So even when we're in season practicing after school, we're done 3:45. Most people, a lot of people aren't even starting practice till close to that time, and we've already gotten 2 hours in, and we're going home. So
yeah, I'm seeing this post here on Twitter X, Twix as we call it, right?
Yeah.
Add engineering and construction experience to the resume for these girls. They spent the better part of the afternoon building these goals for our program. So pretty awesome stuff, man. So I got to ask you, all right, you got to out your girls here. How long did it take, and did it go better or worse than you expected?
It went about how I expected it to go. I think, honestly, there was like 17 different sets of instructions in there. Right. It was worse than putting together IKEA furniture. So,
oh God.
So we're sitting there, and they're like, it says 3/8 inch, but that's what I have a 5/8 inch, and they, I think for some of them that was the first time they've used a socket wrench or a crescent wrench, and but it was a lot of fun having them out there. Like, hey, you built this wrong, and no, we got to start over, and it was a good time. It took us about an hour 45 minutes to put one goal together.
Okay. So it was one goal that you guys did, or two? How many did you guys end up doing?
We have two. We built one a day.
Okay.
We could have done more done, but we only had one set of tools, so that kind of slowed us down a little bit.
So now, did you have the entire army out there, or how many did you have at your disposal for this?
We had about eight of them out there.
Okay.
So like one set was working on putting together the wheels. The other set was like trying to decipher the instructions. You could hear them arguing about what they were saying, like what the instructions said or what they didn't say. And then I was kind of overseeing, trying to help where I could. But no, it was a good time. It was good team experience. And again, it was a beautiful day out there. So we got our vitamin D out there and got in the sun. So
yeah. Who would have thought? That's a team builder in itself, right? Building some goals, right? So now you got another one to tackle. So you got to find another 8 maybe, right? So awesome. Good stuff. Yeah. I hope you were out there videotaping some of the conversations. And I also hope it didn't end up like when my dad does, when he would put take anything apart and put it back together, we'd always end up with all these extra parts, you know.
Yes.
So I hope that wasn't the case for you guys. But
well, at one point we did it. We were like, I don't think that's the right screw, and hopefully we don't get to the end. And that's the one mistake that causes us to start over all the way.
Right.
Luckily,
So,
that didn't happen.
yeah.
I felt kind of like, I don't know if you remember, like growing up, you'd have the flashlight. You could never hold it exactly where your dad wanted the flashlight.
Yes.
You're like, I'm trying, and you'd just be so mad at you because you're like, not there.
Yeah. So, that is a character builder, holding the flashlight for your dad growing up. Yeah, because a lot of words that I cannot repeat on here were said because I could not hold a flashlight properly. All right. Well, awesome. Putting goals together, as many as I've put together, I've probably done just about everything you can think of wrong before I finally got it right. So yeah, it's tricky, but when you got a lot of hands on there, it's kind of fun in a weird way. It's kind of fun too.
Yeah, they had a great time with it. So
yeah, awesome. So tell us, Coach, how has your, we're, a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of month and a half, somewhere in there into the school year for most school districts. Tell us a little bit, what has that been like in terms of your summer? We called it the summer of soccer here, right? From different international tournaments, right? We had Copa, we had the Euros, but then, I ran into you. We got to spend some time together at coaching school at the THSCA, Texas High School Coaches Association coaching school here in San Antonio back in July. And then, you got the U.S. men's national team turmoil as well. And, and then, hey, is Pochettino coming or is he not? And then Alex Morgan just retired, played her final game yesterday. That's a lot, right? So thoughts on some of that or any of that? What has that summer up to now been like for you?
Yeah, so summer, I always look at it as a chance to kind of reflect and reset. I always try to focus on one piece of the program that I really, I look at the year before and what do we need to work on. And it was perfect this summer, looking at all the different, like you said, so many different tournaments going on. You had the Euro, which is very much positional play. You can tell Pep Guardiola's influence there. And then you have the Copa, which is very, South American relational. So it's a lot of players in really close spaces, a lot of improvisation. So, and then you had the women's Olympics and the men's Olympics, but really the women's Olympics more so because that's the full national team. So you got to kind of see, the tweaks that Emma Hayes brought in for the U.S. women's national team. It was really exciting to watch her and how she kind of updated some of the tactical trends and different things that kind of gave them an edge. I think I remember I texted one of my good friends. I was like, it's fun to watch the U.S. women's soccer team playing in 2024 as opposed to maybe, tactics that were set 7-8 years ago. But just a lot of, watching Spain dominate and the men's on the men's side, the under 23, even the women's team, even though they didn't win the Olympics, they're still in a semifinal coming off the World Cup win. Right now, the under 20s are, undefeated in the under 20 women's World Cup. So kind of me and you talked a little bit about, what that looks like and the culture. And you really start to think about how do you create that kind of culture in your program? So lots of really good kind of tidbits and, things that kind of got your the wheels turning in your head. And, took a look at, like, if you watch the Euros, there was a lot of man-to-man pressing, like straight up center back stepping into midfield onto center midfielder. So then that kind of starts getting you thinking, okay, well, what's that going to affect, the trends? And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. THSCA is always a great time for me to get down there and network, and got to go and spend time with my assistant and build, that relationship up and get to talk soccer and, fortunately able to present again and get to listen to a lot of really great soccer minds and kind of ask a lot of questions. So busy summer kind of leading into the school year, which as a soccer junkie, I couldn't get enough of it. I probably watched 2 or 3 games a day. And it was a great time. Woke up watching soccer, Euros in the morning, Copa at night. Even in PD, we're watching the Olympics. So it was a great time.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, it's been great. Seeing the the soap opera that is the U.S. men's national team, right? And then Greg Berhalter ousted, right, after we saw the Copa getting grouped in the Copa, and then of course, and then now the word is I don't even know where we're at in the Pochettino saga as far as he was supposed to be getting offered sometime this morning. I guess I don't know if that's true. I don't know where we're at with that. I know it's caught up. It sounds like it's caught up in financial litigation with Chelsea, right, as far as what they owe him there. So I guess TBD, to be determined. And then they didn't exactly look very inspirational in their match versus Canada the other day. Did you get a chance to watch that?
I didn't get a chance to watch that one, but I kind of saw a couple of highlights, read the analysis on it, looked at the stats line. Yeah, it's unsettling how we can't seem to get that piece figured out. And you saw what a good coach did for the women's team. And now I would argue that the caliber compared to the rest of the world on the women's side, we're definitely, top 5 every year in terms of pure talent. So bringing in an elite coach helps you go from, maybe a 5th place finish to a 1st place finish. Whereas on the men's side, I don't know how much of an impact, but I do know that some impact is needed. And I think that Pochettino would be a guy that could get us to overperform, maybe compared to the talent we have. And then that's what starts to drive change. So hopefully they get to sort that out. And I really like Poch. I think he's got a good idea. When he was at Spurs, I felt like they consistently overperformed maybe what they had talent wise.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that they get that figured out, because I'd love to see the U.S. men's team have a little bit more success.
Yeah, that would be nice, right? So we had talked about we talked a good bit in depth, both in person, over social media as well, and then just separate messages on just the development, the model, the success of what's happening from the U17s all the way to the senior teams for Spain, right? On both sides of the house, both the men's and women's. When you look at that and you capture that, you and I have had great conversations about this. What do you think in this country we can immediately not mimic, but take from them and model to make our own, that we could probably immediately do versus the cultural piece where we obviously know we have a lot of catching up to do? Any thoughts on that?
I think one of the big things is you look at the number of UEFA B licensed coaches in Spain. It's like in the tens of thousands. And the ability for people, they seem to put a lot of emphasis and a lot of pride in having very, very good, successful coaches. I think sometimes in the US, it becomes a little bit of, the federation's trying to make money. So to get your USSC license is $1,500, where you could go to a UEFA B course in Spain for less than that. So I think the first step is really making coaching education more accessible. And I think there has been progress on that. You see the grassroots courses, the online courses through US Soccer Federation. Even my 11v11 license, I was able to do for free because they were training people to teach that course out here at FC Dallas. So there's movement on it. And, they're moving more towards hybrid models. So it becomes more accessible to more people. Whereas in the past, you'd have to go to, wherever. If it wasn't offered in your area, you would have to go and fork out for a hotel and things like that. So I think that the first thing is creating, not just, I believe there's a lot of coaches that really, really want to do great and learn a lot, but having this idea of this is who we are as a country. And I think that's what Spain is so good about. It's not even that they're more educated, it's that they're more educated in their ideology. So if you look at US soccer, you've got all the country's so huge, and you may have somebody who's, very much positional play based, and then you may have somebody who's relational play based, and then you may have someone who's more on the counterattack or whatever. And so you have these great soccer minds, and you need that diversity. Don't get me wrong, you need all this diversity. But if you're trying to build a common language and a common style that, becomes the American way, you need to have this kind of this is who we are.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of start to add in those little things here and there, like the, different flavors. Like you look at like all these Spanish coaches, like you have Unai Emery and you have Pep Guardiola, and then, you have Valverde and Xabi Alonso and all these, and Michel at Girona, and you have all these great, Spanish coaches, and they have this if you watch them play, you're like, there's similarities, but there's some very, very key differences there. But their ability to, all those Spanish players to come in and come together as a Spanish national team comes from the fact that, they encourage that differentiation, but then they also have this common language and this common idea. Like, what a Spanish style is going to be, because those coaches are taught in that. And then from there, they go on and develop their own kind of take on it. And I think that's what we need as the US. I don't think we need to mimic the Spanish style because that's the culture over there. It's so much more than this is our game model. This is how our kids play in the street. This is what the parents are teaching them at home. We need to develop our own idea. And then we also need to be able to, get that out to coaches in a more, I guess, streamlined way, so that everybody has more of a starting base, I guess, that a similar starting base. So where there's key differences, but then players are able to adapt a little bit easier.
Yeah. Well, two that we've always been known for in this country was the level of athletes that we have, the athleticism piece, which I think has to take a little bit more of a less of an emphasis, more of a back seat, right? In terms of our talent identification, right? Stop looking for the biggest guy. Stop looking for the tallest girl, right? Stop looking for the fastest girl, right? Or, but the skill, the soccer IQ, that piece, right? Can we identify that better, right? With less bias. But I guess, so that one is always going to be at the forefront in this country. And some people can say maybe that is part of our identity, but that is also what's kind of held us back in terms of, because just as you talked about that exclusivity with coaches, right, and coaching education, it's the same thing with players, right? There's a huge percentage, the size of this country, there's a huge percentage of the population of both players and coaches that are simply being omitted from having the opportunity. So that's one thing. But then the other thing too, the other identity, at least on the men's side, right? Both sides really in general, but specifically the men's side was always known for, if nothing else, grit, fight, heart, right? And it just seems like that has started to slip with us having, hey, we got better players that are playing in some of the best leagues and some of the best clubs in the world. But now that fight, that pride, seems like it's definitely slipped up a little. Maybe it's just me, but you seem to hear that more and more ever since, October 2017, when we fell to Trinidad and Tobago and failed to qualify for that 2018 World Cup.
Yeah. And, I think that you made a comment there about, like, it's also the time, when are we trying to get our youth players to peak here compared to Spain? So, we kind of talked over the summer, if you're the Barcelona Academy or you're the Athletic Bilbao Academy, your success rate is not on what they're doing at 17, 18. Your success rate is what are they doing on Saturdays and Sundays in La Liga. So you're looking at what are they doing at 23. Whereas, I don't know that you can say it's right or wrong. Club development here is, how do we get them a scholarship at age 17? So the attributes that you're looking at 17 are different than the attributes you're looking at 22, 23. And so those are slight differences that, again, those are cultural differences, right? We live in a country that, we're very fortunate to have an amazing education system, and, college athletics is a blessing in a lot of ways, and changes so many lives, beyond just soccer, right? As high school soccer coaches, we're not just focused on the soccer piece, but if we're talking about, professional development, I do think the college system does sometimes hinder, because clubs are aimed to, how do we get these kids to peak at 17 versus professional clubs? How do we get them to peak at, 20, 21, 22, 23? So I think that's a slight difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember back when, I think, what was it, 2013, when I was doing my, Oh my God. I think I was doing my USSF, the national youth license. It was that same emphasis. It was the first time I had heard. So one of my senior instructors at the course, I did this. Where did I do it? It was at UMHB, University of Mary Hardin Baylor's, where we took this course. It was a week-long residence course. And my senior instructor in that class, he had talked about, it was the first time I had heard it pitched this way, because I was still coaching at the Air Force Academy at the time. And he said, our college system is great in terms of college athletics. It doesn't necessarily align in terms of trying to make professional soccer players. But he said, and part of the reason why is because it's the world's largest the world's largest amateur league, right? That's how he put it. And I was kind of taken aback. I was like, wow, I never really thought about it from that perspective. Now, granted, we can make the argument as to what the NCAA thinks amateurism is, right? That definition has clearly changed. But yeah, when you put it like that, I really had to step back, because I had never thought about it like that. But it made sense in terms of that path, that developmental path model to becoming or not becoming pro.
Yeah, and I like I said, I think that high school athletics, collegiate athletics, we are doing a great job of preparing kids for the real world and to go on and be successful, adults and have very great careers. Like, I think college athletics, there's no way that you can deny that sort of impact. The professional development, right? Creating, and I think that's an important distinction. We're talking about how do we get kids ready for the professional game? And I think we need more professional academies, tied to professional teams. And then you still have the collegiate side, and you still allow these people to continue to, go and pursue their education and pursue soccer. But I think that's an important distinction there. So.
Gotcha. So great stuff. Good stuff. I know we kind of went on the extended version there, but it was all great stuff that we've been talking about. But we start looking forward to your program, Coach. Right? We look back to the year that was the 2023-2024 season. From last season, right? When we look at maybe key takeaways, right? Last year you finished fourth in the incredibly tough Region 156A. What do you think as you start kind of interacting with, yes, we're still in preseason, but as you start interacting with your program this year, what is maybe one or two of the biggest takeaways from how last year played out that you've already seen in your group this year?
Last year we had, I would say, a young group. We graduated 15 from the year before that. So last year was a little bit of a rebuilding, and we're trying to get everyone back on the same page. And we struggled with a lot of injuries. At one point, I think we had like 5 or 6 starters out. And so it was a learning curve, and it taught us how to deal with adversity. And looking to this year, the girls are already like, we're not finishing fourth again. We're going to go out and we're going to have a great year. And they're approaching every day with that idea. And I always tell them, I was like, look, we play really, really good teams in our district. And
Right.
when you play a really, really good team, you never know how it's going to go. But I can just see already the fight and it's the best we've ever been in the weight room. You can see just the individual 1v1 battles that we're having in practice. And it's a great feel. Like it's competitive, and they're getting after each other, and they're seeing like last ditch slide tackling blocks and things like that. So
Nice.
Those are the big things that we're seeing, is that we're getting in, and we're really, really fighting in that physical battle. It was something that maybe we lacked a little bit last year. I thought we were still really good in possession, but I thought winning those 50-50 balls, maybe we could have been better at. And that's been a big point of emphasis for us this year, is we talk about the last 2 yards. I don't know if you've read Pep Linder's book Intensity. He's the
No, I have not.
Liverpool assistant. He was assistant to Klopp. And he talks about the last 2 yards. And he says, when we're pressing people, we're not worried about the first 5-7 yards. We're worried about the last 2 yards. We're going to go finish the action. So that's something that we've been really preaching, is go finish everything. We're going to finish every finishing opportunity. We're going to finish through every tackle. We're going to finish through every run into the box. So the last 2 yards have really been an emphasis for us.
I'll have to check that one out. It's been on my radar for a little bit, but yeah, I have not read it yet. Overall, a good read. What do you think?
Oh, it's honestly surprising how much detail he's willing to give about what Liverpool were doing at that time.
Mhm.
So it's a fantastic read.
Good.
He talks about, they have a identity game where basically you have to earn the right to attack. So you have 3 teams. There's one team resting behind halfway, and then there's 2 teams going attack versus defense on one of the other big goals. And so you don't get to go attack the other way until you win the ball and break past the halfway mark. And that's how you get to attack. So they talk about earning the right to attack.
Nice.
So it's a really good read. I would really encourage any soccer coach to read it.
Did he give the illustration, the breakdown? Did he write that out? Is that in the book? As far as the configuration of what that looks like?
Yeah. He talks about a lot. The illustration's not in there, but there are a lot of illustrations in there. But it's more his kind of recollection of the year and as they go through the season. So, but he talks a lot about like specifically what they were doing to prepare for certain games. So really, really good book.
Awesome. So September of 2023 versus September of 2024, right? What can you already see as maybe identify, I should say, as the biggest difference in your program and your team this year versus last?
Last year, like I said, we kind of, it was a big transition year. So it was a lot of at this point of the year. And I think we did a really good job of settling in as the year went on. But at this point of the year, there was a lot of uncertainty. Like, how are we going to handle this transition of, we have 3 starters back. We lost 8 starters and, 4 Power 5 Division I players. So, there at this time last year, there was a lot of uncertainty of, are we able to do this again? Whereas this year, it wasn't, are we able to do it? It's, how are we going to get it done? And so I think that's the biggest difference between our group is, we have a lot of returners. I think we have seven starters coming back, which helps a lot. And, now they're kind of settled in and they know what it takes. And so there's more of not, can we do it? It's, how are we going to do it?
Gotcha. So yes, I get it. We're still in the preseason and we're still only in September. So still a ways to go right before whether rosters are finalized or you have a much better idea of what you have. But maybe as of right now, what has been maybe the biggest surprise about your group this year?
I think we've become more vertical. So just kind of their intensity and really just attacking the goal has been, and honestly, I don't know that it's really a surprise. I want to kind of take that back because kind of thinking about the players we had last year, I was like, man, this year they're going to be very forward minded. But just really honestly, like my JV, I would say the biggest surprise is the gap between, my JV and my varsity has shrunk a lot. And that's with our varsity improving a lot. And you can start to tell, like, whereas this is year 3 of me having the program, now it's starting to become, you kind of have an idea of, we're all on the same page. And so everybody is getting after it every day and they're all doing the same things and talking the same way. And it's been fun because you can start to kind of hear them speak the same way that you're speaking as a coach. Like some of the phrases that you say as a coach, just when you're coaching, like I'm starting to hear the girls say that to each other. And sometimes they're joking and they're kind of making fun of me. And I'm like, hey, look.
No, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Make fun of coach. They wouldn't do that.
I'm like, you're still saying it though. So you remember. And so I kind of laugh with them with that, but, and just kind of the relaxed, like when they're on the field, they are getting after it. And when they're off the field, they're laughing and joking and kind of, it's fun to see that switch and then be able to, this is fun, but when it's time to compete, it's time to compete. So that's been a really fun surprise. We're doing a fall ball league this year.
Oh, nice.
So we get to play somebody somebody for real next Wednesday.
Yeah.
I was telling somebody it's going to be kind of weird sitting in the stands watching and not being able, but I'm excited to see them compete against, some other teams this part of the year. Cause usually you're just sitting around waiting. So
Yeah, that was me in the summer, right? We had 18 of my girls in a summer 7v7 league. And it's brutal, man. It's such torture to watch to watch your group play, and you're not even on the field, right?
Yeah.
You're off to the side in the stands. It's it's torture. But tell us a little bit about that. The fall ball, what does that look like? What does that comprise of? And with the amount of, I imagine, club players you have, how do you manage that?
So we're playing 6 games. So it's just kind of local teams. So we're in DFW. So we have 2 games against Richardson, Berkner. We have Anna, Melissa, McKinney North, and Frisco Emerson. So that's a great question, because everyone's like, aren't you afraid of, burning your kids out? We only have 1 team in the fall ball league. My program we're blessed to have 3 teams in our program. So I've got 65 kids. So I told my varsity, returning varsity kids, I was like, hey, pick 2 games. And I met with them. I was like, do you think you can find 2 games to play? And they're like, yeah, we can do that. So I was like, all right, let's pick 2 games. And if you want to do more, do more. If you don't, I don't care. And then I was like, and then kind of the next set kind of comes in. And so, we're carrying a roster of about 18, and we got 65 girls in the program. So some girls wanted to do all 6. Some girls only wanted to do 2. So kind of giving them the option and not really making it mandatory has been really, really good in terms of, managing that load and just kind of keeping them interested in, and it kind of gives me a chance to kind of look at different things. I'm like, hey, this is our starting 9. And she's like, she doesn't want to play this week. And I'm like, that's fine. That gives me a chance to look at somebody else in that spot. Mm-hmm. And, luckily I have my good friend, Aaron Magoo, is going to coach our team. So nice. I got a really, really good coach that that I trust. And, and so I told her, I was like, go out and do what you want. I want to, I think it's good for them to hear a different voice. And
right.
So that's kind of what it's our first year doing it. McKinney High, who's in our district, did it last year and really enjoyed it. So I was like, why don't we do it? And let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
And,
now, is that a full-fledged 11v11, or is that condensed 9v9, 7v7? What does that look like?
It's full 11v11.
Okay. And does it rotate as far as who hosts, or are you on?
Yeah. So we have 3. You host 3 games and you travel 3 games.
Okay. Awesome. That'll be good. You'll have to give me feedback on that. See what you think about it. So that's awesome. Good deal. So I found we went with 18 as well, and obviously we're smaller program than you guys, but I found that was a good mix in terms of, even for 7v7, because you always knew somebody was going to be missing, somebody couldn't make it. It was especially in the summer. So one of the things that fascinates me, Coach, is from year to year is there's always overlap in terms of you graduate some kids don't return, what have you, but generally speaking, the bulk of your kids remains the same over the span of a few years. But what always fascinates me is how each year the person, the coaches, unless there's coaching changes, of course, but the coaches remain the same, but the personality of a team changes somehow, some way every year, right? Every year, because some kids leave and new kids come in, right? New players come in. What would you say is maybe one of the biggest personality traits that is about this squad this year that is maybe a little different from last year's?
Like I said, I think last year there was a lot of just questions of, and kind of uncertainty, where the girls maybe didn't, going into the year, didn't really know what we were playing, it was chop and slice and chop and, start. And this year there's a lot of calmness. And I think that the biggest personality trait is just their ability to just roll with punches so far. And again, you talk about it, a lot of times it comes from, who are your leaders and what are their personality traits. And that's kind of what ends up influencing the team even more so than, us as coaches.
Right.
we and you kind of, like you said, you have the same kind of girls year over year over year. And you may have one girl that's a really dominant personality that kind of is the ring, the alpha and leads the team, and the team kind of takes over those traits. And then the next year, that person that is, kind of the go-to has a different personality. And our leaders this year are just very much about, they're when I asked them, I said, what do you want out of this year? And they're like, we want to win and we want to laugh. They're like, we want to be laughing all the time. Like, this group is just a bunch of, like, they love life. And for them, the biggest thing is just they want to enjoy what they're doing. Yeah. It's not just about being the best. It's about having fun with it. So I think that would be our biggest. We just have fun. It's a fun group.
Sounds like a fun group. I was about to say. Yeah. That's good. That's good. So obviously, in a perfect world, we would want to just talk all day about every single one of our players, acknowledge every single one of our players. Unfortunately, we can't do that, right? We're pressed for time here a little bit, but tell us maybe if there was a player or two that you could acknowledge for any number of reasons, right? Maybe they've come a long way. They fought a particular battle, the adversity piece, or just maybe some players that we should know, one or two players that we should know more about, that the state of Texas should know more about, that's at McKinney Boyd. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I would say that first our forward Meg Welsh, she makes the team go. So last year she had 5 games where she scored multiple goals in the game to win the game for us. So she's a game winner. She's a senior this year. Her first 2 years she had to play outside back because we had some really good forwards up top. And then last year she kind of got her chance, and she was voted by her peers as a captain as a junior, which had never happened before. Yes. And not that I'm sure it's happened before, but it hadn't happened before while I've been at Boyd. And then, we have two midfielders that I think are really, really good players to watch. One, her name's Ashley Peffers. She is, we talk about those kind of midfield profiles, and, you have the destroyer and you have the creative player and you have the metronome, and she really can do it all. Like she can be that girl that kind of slows the game down. She can be the girl that runs in behind and off the shoulder of the 9. She can be the number 6. And, I think that she's going to have a great year and kind of more of an unsung hero for us. But if I'm drawing up my team sheet, she's right there. And then we have a sophomore. Her name's Layla Iglesias. She's dynamic. I would watch out for her. And then our small. I'm gonna give one more shout out. I know you said just 2 or 3, but have at it. I always tell her she's our smallest girl, but she plays, the biggest. Her name's Dahlia Placino. She's going to be a senior. She plays. We play with an inverted fullback, which not very many high school teams do. And I have never seen a kid that was just like, that's what you want me to do? That's easy. And she dominates that role. And we were joking the other day. She's like, you need to write a book. And I said, yeah, there's going to be a chapter in there about the Dahlia role. We're just going to call it the Dahlia position. So awesome. She's a great kid, and she does a lot of things for our team. And when we had that rough start to last year, she was on national team duty with the Filipino national team, and when she was gone.
I always, every year I look for that one particular player. Oftentimes we focus on the captains or the alpha, blah blah blah, right? But I call them, so every year I identify one, right? And I call him the honey badger on the team, right? So remind me, I'll send you a little video offline once we get done here. There's a video that I just had the other day that I just stumbled across, and it's a honey badger taking on, I think, 3 leopards all by itself. But that's that mentality, and I love those kind of players. Are so infectious for the rest of your team. So absolutely love it. I love it. So you mentioned the inverted fullbacks, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was one of the things that was part of your presentation at Tasco last year. Was that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about Tasco. So I know I just haven't had the opportunity to sit in on any of your presentations yet, right, Coach? So last year at Tasco, even though both you and I were there, but we were both working, And I did have the opportunity to have you join us in
Mhm.
studio there last year at Tasco. And then as well as at THSCA, a coaching school this past July. Talk to us a little bit about just your convention experiences and also presenting at those. What's that been like for you?
So it's always a really cool experience. I really enjoy it because it really challenges you to, you sit there and they ask you for a topic and you come up with a topic and, you really could sit there and talk forever about it, but you're like, I have 45 minutes. What is the most important thing I can say in 45 minutes? So it really gets you to start to think about, what is the main part of this topic? And so THSCA 2 years ago, I just kind of talked about our general ideas, and then I went through it, and I was like, I kind of went over time a little bit, and I felt like it was a really good presentation. That was a classroom session, but I felt like it was really broad.
Yeah.
Um, and so then going into Tasco, they asked me to do a field session. And I kind of made it a little bit more narrow, and I kind of almost went too narrow on it, but it was still really cool to get out there. And it was very nerve wracking. You're in the middle of
Right.
that giant convention center, and all these people are sitting there with their notepads, and they're like, are they just writing down all the bad things I'm doing, or what's going on here? Um, and then you have kids that you don't know, and but that was really really cool because you kind of got to see how all the different sessions went. You got to see personalities of different coaches, and you got to kind of put your own spin on it. And then this past year at THSCA, kind of went in between. So it wasn't a super broad topic, but it wasn't super specific. That one kind of got thrown for a loop a little bit. The space I thought we were going to have was not the space that we were given. So luckily I was the very last presenter. So I got 2 days to kind of go back to the hotel and kind of go back to the drawing board a little
Readjust.
bit. Yeah, readjust. And want to give a big shout out to San Antonio Johnson and their kids they had there. Man, those guys are ballers. So they made
There you
go. They made that session really easy because it was about attacking play, and you had dudes that could just ball out. So it's like, I don't even need to coach you. You're just going to go be really good. So that always makes it fun when you have that. But just presenting at a convention, I would tell young coaches, older coaches, like, go talk to people, go ask questions, build those connections, not only to learn, but to just sometimes I think that we forget that we're rivals and we're not enemies. And I think that that's these conventions remind us of that we're all in this together, and we're competing against each other. And, on Friday night at 7:15 or 7:30 PM, like, yeah, I'm trying to beat you. But other than that, we're all in this to help kids, and, it's a sport we love, and to build those relationships. And that's been something that's, I've really tried to focus on, and that's been fun. And then you kind of get to, support other people's programs, like throughout the playoffs. My friend Erin at Highland Park got to support her through her run. My friend Aaron Smith at Farmont Marcus, texting her, although that you never want to see a district team do better than you, like,
I was waiting for that one.
Matt Dickinson over at Prosper, again, talk to him, and, and watching his team have success. And so it's all, but those relationships are, the kids will kind of come to go, and, you have those, but, a lot of these people you're going to be coaching against for 10, 15 years, hopefully, if you're doing it right.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
And so building those relationships and getting to celebrate, because at the end of the day, it's about celebrating kids, and, and I think that that's important. So those conventions are really good for highlighting the great things that, everyone's doing around the state, and building that kind of sense of community of, we're rivals, right? We're competing against each other, but we're not enemies. And this is a great, and the best coaches are the best thieves. And I'm going to give anything I have, and hopefully I'm going to take anything I can. So, so I would encourage anybody, if you have a chance to go to Tasco or go to THSCA, like, go and just ask questions and meet new people. And, I was blown away. There was a young coach And it's killing me that I can't remember his name, but I do remember him. He came up and he got my phone number and he's like, I came here by myself and I don't really know anyone, but I just wanted to come. And he had no idea who I was. He had no idea who half the people he was talking to was. He just wanted to go up and build connections and get to know people. And I was like, that's what this is about. Like, and so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to presenting, right, I still haven't quite figured it out. I've presented a handful of times at different events, but I still haven't. You're trying to figure out when you got a huge audience, right, or a big audience, and you're kind of like, okay, is my content here, is it way over people? You're talking about specific or broad, right? But I just kind of try to look at it as in small little increments of, am I giving them just way too much that's over their head, or am I just underselling this and giving them not enough, right? And kind of insulting their intelligence, if you will. So I find that's where I found myself in every presentation, right? So yeah, it can be tricky for sure. It's a little nerve-wracking, but it's fun though too.
Yeah.
Growth comes from that, right? And that's what we're always preaching to our to our athletes. So we have to experience that as well. And then, you talked about, so I had a question for you. So from the standpoint of coaching school, right, this past coaching school in July here in San Antonio, was there something that snuck up on you where you took something away, something that was kind of opening for you, or you learned something, maybe not from an actual session or a lecture, but maybe in conversations with coaches, interacting with coaches, talking with somebody? Was there something that you're just like, okay, that you walked away from coaching school where you were like, okay, this is interesting, I learned something here?
So I think the great thing about THSCA as opposed to TASCO is THSCA is all encompassing, right? And I think that sometimes we focus so much on our sport, we forget that how much of being a good coach is being able to communicate with people no matter what the content is. So our head softball coach was like, hey, the Alabama head softball coach is doing a 2-hour lecture. You need to come watch. And I was like, I don't really want to go listen to softball. But his whole topic was about how to connect with Gen Z. And that was probably the most inspirational hour and 15 minutes I've spent in a long time. And just listening to all the different things he does to build community. Like he talked about, they had a girl from New Zealand on their team. And on her last game or a big game or whatever, he went and bought little mini New Zealand flags and placed them under every single seat at the stadium. And then right before or right after the American national anthem, he had them play the New Zealand national anthem. And he also had lyrics cards underneath the seat. So the whole stadium was singing the New Zealand national anthem for this one girl. And so it was like this profound moment of how you build connection with kids. And he's like, that girl will never forget that. And so that was like, just listen. And he had so many other great bits in there. But that was probably the most eye-opening and most memorable experience that from this past coaching school was just like, he talked about how to be a great communicator. And so that was a really cool one.
Right. Yeah. And part of why I ask that is I've often found, it's been my opinion and it's just like whenever you go to any coaching course, right, is I feel like the ones, you go, you listen, you run sessions, you listen to other speakers, you sit in on sessions, you take notes, but who I've always learned from the most have been my peers, the fellow coaches, right? And it's usually through just off to the side conversations about, somehow we start talking about it, something, a topic comes up and you're like, wait a minute, what? You're doing what? And and you said, right, we're thieves, but that's where that growth, not only the networking, but that's where that growth really happens. So, which I find fascinating. It's pretty awesome. That's where the real learning honestly happens. And it's why you need to, if you're not registered yet, registration is open for the TASCO convention this upcoming November. It'll be the forgetting my dates here, but the Thursday through Saturday, right before Thanksgiving break in Galveston, Moody Gardens in Galveston, Texas. Thoughts on this upcoming TASCO convention, Coach? Anything you're looking forward to?
I'm just always interested of who they're going to bring, because it feels like they always seem to find a way to up their game. So it's like, who's the big surprise this year that they're going to bring? So they had the Arsenal under-19 coach last year. You had him on your podcast, I think.
Yeah.
And getting to learn that, and like you said, like the biggest takeaways in those conventions are when you're standing off to the side just talking. Because I think you go and you're watching enough sessions, and you're like, oh, I've done a variation of that, but a lot of times, like, you pick up just random little things that you're like, that just really spoke to me. Like on the last Tasco, one of the presenters, he was talking about, and he was asking the players to give width, and he was talking about, if you're on the sideline, there's no one behind you, so the sideline's playing with you. So I've always heard of the sideline as like an extra defender, but he was talking about in possession, if your heels are on the sideline, there's no one behind you, so you don't even have to check your shoulder behind you. You know that there's no one there, and if they are there, they're outside the field. So what are they doing?
Right.
So just I'm always looking forward to what little piece are you going to take away? Mario over at Prosper, he had a couple sessions 2 years ago, and like one of his drills, and I remember I stole that, and I still use that to this day. And and for me, if I can get one thing that really, really sticks out to me every year, then that's worth it. And so I'm just excited to see who they have presenting this year.
It's coming. It'll be coming out soon. So, and
getting to talk to all the soccer coaches, and getting to see those guys. And so,
registration is now open. Make sure you can go to the Tesco website, and your registration, when you register, obviously your membership is renewed with that registration. So get on that. It'll be here before you know it. You want to definitely book your hotel as well for Moody Gardens if you can. You don't have to stay there, but definitely book, make your reservations now. As we start to transition here, Coach, we start to wrap up. So changes, what are your thoughts, right? We got now, all of a sudden, just like that, we got a big change, probably one of the biggest changes in the 40-plus years of Texas high school soccer. We got Division I and Division II for 4A, 5A, and 6A. Thoughts on those major changes?
I think it's a good thing. Somebody was talking about, there's no state tournament now, and that's bad for kids, but you have more state finals, you have more state semifinals, you have more state, regional finals. And that builds excitement in the community, and that builds excitement for kids to be part of the program. And that's what grows our sport. And, and it's not just about state tournament or, state semifinal or regional tournament. It's about like that, you go 3 rounds in the playoffs. That's a huge deal, no matter what sport you're talking about. And you're giving more teams the opportunity to be able to do that. And to say, they're in the regional final, they're in the regional semifinal, they're in the state semifinal. So I think that just, it builds excitement for the kids. I know, just even thinking about it, like, every year in Region 1 on the girls' side, you're looking at the list of teams and you're like, there are 10 really, really good teams in our region.
Right.
But then you start to, now that there's, 2 divisions, you're like, okay, we'll only have to beat half of those. And all of a sudden 5 looks a little bit more,
right, less daunting.
A little bit more doable than 10. But it also, and selfishly speaking, in DFW, you're like, we could have a really good team and we could still get first rounded. And so and not that really doesn't change because of how it's matched up, but I think it builds excitement for all the programs. And, like for us, we have 2,600 kids. We have the Planos in our district that all have 4,500 plus. We have Allen in our district that has 77,000 kids, right? They're 3 times as many as we are. Even Prosper has 1,000 more kids than we do. And so, it starts to be like, okay, well, I don't have to play these giants, in the playoffs anymore. We just got to survive district, which has always been hard enough.
Right. Right.
And maybe, luck goes, Lady Luck looks good at you and you win that first playoff game. Then now it's okay. Now we can make a little bit of a run. And now maybe the state tournament's not so much out of the question.
Yeah.
And I think that that's true all across the state. I think about even a team from our district last year, Denton Geyer, they beat the state champion Prosper 2 times in district. And to reward them for that, they got to play Louisville Hebron first round. And so, so you have a really, really good team that is probably a 3-round playoff team that's going home after round 1. And
right.
I think you look at that and every region has a district like that.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And, and I think it's just good for kids. Any chance you can celebrate kids, I think is good. And it's not like we're sitting here and we're saying, everybody gets a participation trophy. We have so many schools that play soccer.
Yeah.
And then you only have 3 state champions.
Right.
Whereas other states, a quarter of our size, have 8 state champions or so.
Well, the thing that's baffled me about it, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing, right? You've had people for years. I've been hearing, hey, how come soccer doesn't get to do it? Like, how come football only gets to do this, right? And now it's here, and now I'm hearing some of those same people saying it's like, oh, it's going to be watered down. It's not going to mean as much.
Yeah.
And on one hand, it's like I can understand the idea of that on one hand, but I'm also touching my head because Jimmy Langford from Wakeland, when I had him on here, he put it probably best in a way that I hadn't really qualified either or, but our regions here in the state of Texas, the majority of our regions, especially at the 5A and 6A level, are larger than some of the total state teams in many of the other states in this country when it comes to high school soccer. And when we broke it down that way, it's like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. So, all right, we got one more question here for you, Coach. So you gave us a great quote about being a Texas high school soccer coach. You look at the state of Texas high school soccer, where it is right now, and where you maybe can see where is it. You look in your crystal ball, where can you see it headed in maybe the next 3 to 5 years? Any major changes? Just the state of the game? What are your thoughts on where the sport is headed?
I think that we're kind of with college athletics, at least on the girls' side, you see a lot of kids graduating early if they're really, really good. But now with roster caps and things like that, I'm interested to see what the recruiting landscape looks like over the next couple years. But as far as, just the high school aspect of it, you're starting to see, I know at least here in DFW, when we make the playoffs, FC Dallas is posting about our kids running, making runs in the playoffs. Sting does a really good job about kids that are advancing in the playoffs. And you're starting to see kind of, I think for a little bit there was this big clash of high school versus club. And really for me, kind of in the past year or two, I've kind of seen it start to go back the other way where everyone's like, how do we do what's best for kids? So I'm hoping that continues. And that helps with the growth of the high school game. And, and I think that, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how this kind of shakes out with, the new divisions. And,
right.
You start to see success breeds success. South Lake Carroll is really good at football, but they're in Division II every year. Right. And so, would they, and not that they may still win Division I, but will we see some different powerhouses start to show up because of the 2 divisions? And how does that influence the rest of the state? So
yeah. Awesome.
So I'll be interested to see how that kind of plays out a little bit.
Yeah, I think we all will, right? I think we all will for sure. So great stuff. That wraps up our first segment, Coach. I know we went a little long, but it was all great information. And so we'll see if we can give your guy a little quick break here. All right, we're gonna go. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with a quick word from our partners. We're thrilled to tell you about our world-class partners, AR Shots, your go-to destination for exceptional photography experiences in San Antonio and across all of Texas. As a seasoned professional and published photographer, Alonso Ramirez specializes in capturing the essence of your most memorable moments. From dynamic team media days and live-action game days to heartwarming family gatherings and elegant senior portraits, he makes every shot count. What sets him apart? His unwavering commitment to deliver the best customer service in the Lone Star State. With major international and professional sports event experience, AR Shots' work speaks for itself. He is dedicated to making your photography experience straightforward and enjoyable. So why settle for ordinary when you can experience extraordinary with AR Shots? Contact him today so he can turn your vision into a stunning reality. Check him out at arshots.net as well as on X and Instagram at arshots. Looking to step up your social media marketing game? Well, let us tell you about our great friends at Gipper. Gipper is a way that schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 4,000 coaches, ADs, SIDs, and club directors who use Gipper to create high-quality visual branded graphics for your program. The best part? Anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. If you do have significant design experience, you're going to love this as well, as you are what they call the power user, and this is designed with you in mind as well. And just for being a listener and supporter of the 50/50 podcast, you can receive savings immediately and save 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. Simply visit gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050. And then there are our great friends at Global Scarves, both Bill and Kyle. They are the top providers of custom knitted scarves, beanies, and other fan merchandise in the U.S. All merch is fully custom with free design services and free shipping on all orders. They do so much more, guys, than just scarves. Blankets, beanies, you name it. It's all designed and all customized to your specifications and needs. You can contact them at info@globalscarves.com to get any free designs or quotes built out for your school, club, or maybe even a supporters group. Simply mention the podcast or use the code #5050pod and they will be sure to take care of it. All right, and we are back, episode 119. We are with Elias Ramos, the head women's soccer coach of the McKinney Boyd Broncos. All right, coach, moment of truth, counterattack time. We get to pick on you. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, this will probably be the toughest question you answer all day. Strangest thing in your refrigerator right now?
Ooh, strangest thing. Probably a 2-week-old Benedict from brunch that I just looked at right now.
2 weeks, man. Wow.
Yeah, I was looking at it and I was like, I really need to throw that away, but I'm scared to even touch it. So
yeah, if it's moving on its own in your fridge, yeah, it's time to get rid of it. So, all right, next one. Favorite music artist when you were in high school?
Oh, when I was in high school, I think it
where you
probably depends which part of high school we're looking at. I would say I remember Blink-182 was like I listened to so much Blink-182 like my first couple years of high school, and then kind of probably after that, I don't even really remember what. You go back and you look at it and you're like, that came out when I was in high school. But I would say Blink-182 was a big one for me. So,
okay. All right. Favorite urban legend?
Ooh. Favorite urban legend. I don't have a whole lot. I do know that when we went to THSCA this year, my room was overlooking the Alamo, and they're like you're gonna see the ghost on top of it if you look out there at the right time. Yeah. So I that was probably the most recent urban legend I've heard.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, not a whole lot. I'll say this: there's not a whole lot of urban legends in McKinney. I'll tell you that.
All right. So were you there like just staring out the window at 3 a.m. staring at the Alamo? That wasn't you, was it?
No. What's the haunted hotel there in San Antonio?
Oh, there's a few of them. There's a podcast that I've been listening to that talks about one of them, but I'm drawing a blank on the name. But there's one. There's a lot of interesting stories, particularly in that area around the Alamo, just because, because
Well,
of
our whole coaching staff, like all the football coaches, were staying at this haunted hotel, and they were talking about this great rate they got. And I was like, yeah, because you're splitting the room with the ghost. He's paying half of it.
yeah, I can get it to you afterwards. You got
Yeah.
to give me a second to look it up. But yeah, there's a few of them. There's a few of them downtown. All right, next one. Social media pet peeve.
Oh, I think when people like repost their own post and they're like, go like it. I'm like, that drives me nuts. Like when it's like, I'll see like, the athletes, it's more so the younger generation. They'll like have their photo shoot and then they'll like new post, go like, and it's just attention seeking.
Right.
So yeah, that one, yeah, I think that's my biggest pet
Okay.
peeve. It's like,
Yeah. All right.
I don't mind
Favorite.
when people repost other people's stuff, but like when you post something and then you're telling everyone to go like your post, I'm like,
Right.
watch it anyway.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Favorite number and why?
6, Xavi Hernandez, easy.
Nice, Xavi, my man. Even though I am a Real fan, I love Xavi, and I'm also equally. It's part of the reason why I just Barca doesn't do it for me. Just how do you treat your legend like that?
Yeah.
How do you treat them?
That has been. I haven't watched as much Barcelona ever since Messi left the way that he left, and then starting to watch how they treated everyone. Like even you go back and look at like Luis Suarez and Xavi and
even Carlos Puyol, right? We talked about just some of the, I don't know. It's just I don't know. They've forgotten some of their greats that made them great, and I just you don't treat your legends like that.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, next one. All right, so which one of these, right? Which one of these is gotta go, right? Fashion statement, faux pas, whatever you want to call it, right? So, socks with Crocs, Birkenstocks, or sandals.
We're talking about socks with all of them.
Oh yeah, I guess I should say that. Correct. Yes, socks.
Socks with Crocs, Birkenstocks, or sandals.
Yeah.
I think sandals is the one that's got to go. Socks and sandals, I just can't do. I think I've just seen so much socks and Crocs and socks and Birkenstocks that I've now just become immune to it.
Yeah.
But I feel like socks and sandals is more like my generation that would do something like that. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, when it's the high schoolers, you're like, okay, like y'all are weird. But when it's like people your own age, you're like, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, today at my school, I saw from a kid, I saw socks with the flip flops, with the little one big toe and I was like, dude, it's like that just looks like it hurts, man.
There's no way that's comfortable.
No way. So, all right. So current music and podcast playlist. So we go through Coach Ramos's phone right now. What are we going to find on the music and podcast playlist?
Music, some, I've got a country playlist I'm listening to. So a lot of, current country and, that's probably what's on my playlist. That's one, if I get in my car, that's what I'm listening to. Podcasts, the High Performance Podcast. I don't know if you've ever listened to that one. But they have really, really good, it came out during COVID and they brought on like Pochettino was on one of their people. Emma Hayes was on their podcast.
Maybe I have heard of it. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to get the visual of
Jake Humphrey
their thumbnail.
It's Jake Humphrey and why can't I think of the other person? But
that's it. It's just called High Performance. It's just High Performance Podcast.
Yeah, the High Performance Podcast.
Check it out.
And they don't just bring on like sports people. Like they brought on the CEO of Red Bull Racing and like and so there's a lot of Rio Ferdinand was on there one time. Who was it? Edwin van der Sar was on there. So really, really good. They have a really good variety of different people. And then Modern Soccer Coach Podcast. I don't know if you
Gary Kerning.
Gary Kerning. I listen to his quite a bit.
Puts out a lot of great stuff. Stuff.
So those are probably the two that if I cycle through and listen. I like to read more than listen to podcasts.
Yeah. I do both. I do both. So yeah, I'm constantly trying to consume information in many different ways. So yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. Audiobooks as well. Audiobooks. So
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna take you back. See if you remember the Alamo here. Ghosts. Okay. Ghosts. Yes or no?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Any personal stories you want to share on that?
You know how, growing up, my grandmother's from Eagle Pass.
Okay.
So we would go over there. They always ghost stories. So many ghost stories. So then you just start to believe it, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is real. So then you just start to get things reinforced. Like your dog just starts barking at the wall. You're like, that has to be a ghost. Like
self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yes. So
yeah.
Ghost. Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
About it. Yeah.
Right. Your first job.
It's funny. This came up that I was movies 14 here in McKinney. I worked as a concessions guy, making the popcorn, and then also going in and cleaning up the movie theaters after. But the movie theater we worked at, it just closed down.
Oh wow. Okay.
But yeah, we working at the movie theater.
Yeah. How long did you do that for?
Like 4 months, maybe.
Yeah. That's it. Oh wow. I thought you were gonna say a couple of years. Wow.
No, and then I was a lifeguard for a long time in high school. So
gotcha. I could see you doing that. Yeah. All right. So next one. Now as a coach, not as a player, right? This is one of my favorite ones to ask. Any game day superstitions or rituals?
Oh, I tell people I'm not superstitious. I'm extrastitious. I will not wear the same outfit if we lose in it. So
now define that though. Do you change it up? Like you just won't wear the same.
I wear the white top and blue pants.
Okay.
I'm not wearing the white top with those same blue pants. I'm gonna switch it up and maybe I'm gonna go the blue pants and a blue top or something like that.
But how do you keep tabs on that? How do you track that before one day you kind of accidentally it comes full circle and you're wearing that again? How do you keep tabs though?
I think I start to like have this idea, and then you have a couple like go-to game day outfits. Like I tell people, if I'm wearing khaki shorts, we're winning. Okay. I think I've only lost one game wearing khaki shorts with like a polo, because usually the temperature's out and I'm in a better mood, or I don't know.
Right.
I'm superstitious on the outfits. Game day ritual, workout right before the first game, and then you will see me with a bag of sour Skittles in my hand right at the start of every game. So I'll have this sour Skittles, and I'm just stress. I'm a stress eater, and I'll just be sitting there, and usually it's a good thing because it keeps me quiet.
Right. So I've heard that.
It takes a few minutes to kind of finish my sour Skittles, and then I can then I have a little bit of time to kind of start to get a hold of the game. But yeah, those are my two big game day rituals.
Yeah. I'm a big gum guy, so I go through. So I probably on average. So here's a free shameless plug. So Extra Refreshers spearmint gum, right? So if you're listening, Extra Refreshers, feel free. We'd love to be sponsored by you guys. But no, I go through these. So this is a pack of 40, right? This is a 40-piece pack. Probably when we're not in season, probably maybe going through one a month, right? In season, probably one every 2 weeks, right? So so I go through quite a bit over the course of a school year and over the course of a season. So yeah, I don't know, just a gum guy, just kind of helps me. I use Sir Alex Ferguson as an example. If you go back and you look at a lot of his videos on the sideline, and he is just wearing that gum out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, and I'm a pacer. Like,
correct. Me too. Yeah.
And my kids call me. They're like, "Oh, there's the stomp. There's the Ramos stomp," because I'll like stomp out there. But yeah, the sour Skittles. It's such an odd snack, but you will see me with sour Skittles. One thing that we have is we had a coach. She would bring one of those giant bags of Sour Patch watermelon, and she would hand 2 to every kid on the sideline at the start of each half. So that's like our team superstition. Nice. So if we lose and we didn't have the Sour Patch Kids, it's because we didn't have the Sour Patch. That's why we lost, not because of anything else that happened.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Most recent binge watch.
Ooh. The Bear. The Bear. Have you watched The Bear?
I so probably sometime during the summer, right? I'd say maybe late June, early July. I started, but I'm only I'm only like maybe four. I'm like 3 or 4 episodes in, but I found, man, that series like gives me anxiety, man. You know, like what like because it's hard to like the pace of it and
Yeah.
how, it's just like I gotta like sit down and just chill, right? So I
Yeah.
stopped and I haven't come back to it yet. And I've heard incredible things about just as it progresses. Season 2 is unbelievable. Mixed reviews on, I think the latest season was season 3,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So mixed reviews on that. I'm still gonna watch it, but I'm just
Yeah.
like I feel like you have to be like you have
Yeah.
to be like you have to have binge watching stamina for that one because it just I don't know. It's like it
Well,
got my anxiety going for some reason.
in college, I worked in a restaurant for a long time,
Mhm.
and so it was almost like a trauma comfort. Like I was like, it's like I heard this feels like home right now. Like I remember doing that. Like
Yeah.
so,
Are
yeah. So
you
I
up to date? Are you up to date on it or
flew
what?
through all 3 seasons in like 2 weeks.
Really? Okay.
Like that was my big binge watch towards the end of the summer.
Mhm.
Haven't really binge watched anything lately. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Bucket list destination.
Ooh, coast of Spain. I think
Yeah.
somewhere on the coast of Spain. That's got to be
Yeah.
one. It was funny. We did that. We answered this question in our PD day the other day, and somebody was just like looked up like, "Where's the best place to go?" He's like, "That's my bucket list destination." He's just like,
Yeah.
"If they say it's the best," and so
Yeah.
maybe somewhere like that. I feel like somewhere really cold, like Antarctica, would be really cool to go to. Alaska, Greenland. Kind of out in those, really, where it's you got the lights and at night, and so that would be somewhere cool to go to as well.
Hey, Greenland's going to be in CONCACAF. You can make that journey out there. Go watch a game, maybe. Yeah, that'd be crazy. So, all right, couple left, coach. All right, next one. Something, it can be anything. Something you, whether it's a song, a movie, what have you, an actor, or whatever. Something you pretend or you have in the past pretended to hate, but you secretly really love.
Oh man, I tell my girls this. We have what's called "I just broke up with my boyfriend" radio in the weight room,
Yeah.
and I'm always giving them a hard time. But I think I've come to grow to like it. Like
Oh no, coach.
I
No.
know, I know, I know,
No. You got to be part of the resistance. Keep the resistance
I know,
strong.
I know.
Oh no.
But yeah, something I tell them that I'm like, turn this off. I can't stand it in the back. I'm like, okay,
You're
yeah.
singing it all the way home. I know. All right. Final one here. So reflective, a little bit more serious on this one, but I'm gonna put you on the spot with this one. All right. I ask this one every now and then. So finish this statement, this sentence, right? The 2024-2025 McKinney Boyd Broncos women's soccer season will be a success if
Ooh, if um, this is a tough one.
yeah.
Um, you know, I think if at the end of the year they you go back and you ask them to describe the year in one word, and they all say fun. So I think that will make it a success. I told my parents this the other day. I was like, like you said, we are in district. I guess it's district 6A now. They always switch us around, just one number.
Right. Yeah.
You're playing somebody really, really good. So you can't put too much weight on wins and losses. I think for them, it'll be a success if they feel like they had a great experience.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't disagree. That was kind of the genesis of that question when I first started asking it. It was to get coaches to dive in a little bit deeper beyond the X's and O's, the wins and losses, because it's just because I've always come back every year when I'm going into one, starting the season with one of my teams in my program. That's one of the things that we set out to do is like, hey, what are we going to collectively, how are we going to define our success for the year? Right.
Yeah.
We got to define it. So then we know what it'll look like, what it'll feel like. And we're not surprised in the end. So somehow through that was the genesis of how I started asking that question. So yeah, no, I know sometimes people feel like that can come across as cliche, but it's genuine, man. It's real. It's real.
Yeah. And the girl, like you said, like I meet with my seniors every spring, right before we break. It's something I started when my first year, and I always ask them, I was like, this is your turn to make, put your spin on it. And I asked them, I was like, what do we want this team to be remembered by? And they're all like, we just want to have fun and laugh. They're like, and they want to win. Trust me. Like when we have a bad practice, they're mad. But this group, like genuinely, like if you look at how they interact outside of soccer, like they're just a bunch of goofballs. Like they crack me up. And so but when they, kids will be like, I just want to have fun, but they don't even really know what fun is. But like this group has a very clear definition of what fun looks like. And so I think that it will be a success if we can replicate that on a consistent basis.
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking with Coach Elias Ramos, the head women's soccer coach of the McKinney Boyd Broncos. Coach, this has been awesome. Have really enjoyed having you here. We covered a lot of ground, actually, believe it or not. And I know we were 20 minutes into the podcast before I had really started asking you any questions about your program. But I think that was kind of why I warned people. It's like we can discuss a lot of great things. Yeah. I always have very enlightening, great conversations with you. I always walk away learning something. So really, it's a privilege to have you here. Big fan of yours and what you're doing there, and just what you're about and how you're part of what's good of our profession as Texas high school soccer coaches. So thank you for being here. And as is customary, right, as we start to wrap up here in our stoppage time here, what we do is we like to have our guests give them the floor. So any shout outs, thank yous, whatever's on their mind as it relates to the game, they can share with everybody. So go ahead, Coach, the floor is yours.
Thank yous. Want to thank you for having me on. Kind of the same thing. Like I always enjoy talking with you, and I've told you I think it's amazing what you do for our sport and how you you highlight so many other people's programs and so many other people's kids, and that's a rare thing. I think when we're really looking to highlight other people, especially nowadays when it's so me. So I appreciate what you do for our sport, and having me on, and for your friendship.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank yous. I doubt any of them will listen to this, but all my players, thankful to them.
They better be listening. What are you talking about, Coach? You got to get those downloads in. Come on.
Right. And then just I've said this before in a lot of tweets, but I'm just so fortunate to work in a district that cares about and it's changed, but for a long time it's always been football. But our district cares about soccer. We have a soccer person in an athletic director position. And our district cares about women's sports a lot. So to have those two things together, that starts from the top, and we're very blessed and fortunate where it's important to be good at women's soccer in McKinney.
I believe it. Yeah.
And so just thankful for that support and the community and all my coaches and what they do. So thankful for all them, and Coach Meadows, you had her on one time.
Yeah, had both you guys on. Yeah. And she did great, by the way. I know she was nervous. She did fabulous.
Yeah, I gave her a hard time the other day. I told her, I said, "Hey, we're going on this podcast again." She's like, "Ramos, I didn't like that." Like, so I was like, "No, you're not going back on." But Coach Meadows, if you're listening to this, big shout out to you. She's a great assistant, and so, and just to all the coaches that. Like all the coaches in my district, I'm very blessed to be able to compete against some really, really great people, and I could name them all off, but just very fortunate to have a really good community around here that we're going to push each other, but we're also going to call each other and and, text each other when big games and good luck and go get them. And, so we're very fortunate around here. So.
Yeah. Well said. And I like what you said there earlier, right? You said we're, what did you say? We're rivals, not enemies. Right.
Yes.
And that was so well put, such a great way to put it. So thank you for that, Coach. And thank you for sharing all of that. And my final thoughts, mine are really quick. So first, again, got to get in the plug. So make sure you like, rate, subscribe, trying to grow that YouTube page. Go on there, YouTube, subscribe, and click that, click the bell there so you get the live notifications whenever we go live, which is about 98% of everything we do, because we do just about everything live. So make sure subscribe on YouTube, like, rate, subscribe, as well as wherever you get your audio podcast, right? Your podcast platform of your choice. Go on there, follow us, and give us a rating, right? If you think we're good, give us 5 stars. If you think if you think we could do better, give us a rating as well, and to give us that feedback. And we'd love to see what we can do to adjust, and we'll make sure that we take it to heart and always working to try to put out better content. And excited about what we have coming up in the next couple of months as we start getting closer and closer to the high school season as well. So college soccer season in full swing, club soccer now in full swing as well. So best of luck to all of our athletes and our former Texas high school soccer athletes that are now playing across the state and across the country at the college level. Best of luck to all of you. And again, you can find us on social media, on Twitter X, Twix as we call it, as well as on Twitch at 50_50 pod, as well as on Instagram at 50_50 podcast. So my final thoughts, aside from my shout out to college and club soccer and our new college soccer players that are playing all over the place. Really, it's more of a personal one. Today is I always tell people, I crack the joke all the time that I'm the head coach, but I introduce my wife as the neck coach because we know the neck controls the head, right? So today is her birthday, right? So my lovely wife, today's her birthday, and I just want to tell her, thank you so much. Coach, you highlighted earlier about being able to do this and support other programs in terms of the podcast and what have you. And she's a big reason why, a huge reason why. And just an amazing woman, an amazing wife, and lucky, very lucky, and just want to wish her a very happy birthday. So that's going to do it. So, Coach, thank you again. Any final thoughts, final words, Coach?
Loved every minute of it, man. You asked some really tough questions. Right before I got on, I saw you tweet something like, "Oh yeah, we'll ask him some stuff." You said like perhaps or something.
Oh, that was Fletcher Duke, right? So lethal coach, right?
Yeah.
He said maybe I forgot what he said, some tough questions, and I responded with a lovely, what was that? Oh my God, I'm trying to blank on the GIF now, but yeah, the perhaps. But yeah, great stuff. So I've loved having you here. This was way overdue, Coach. Looking forward to being able to, maybe we can have you on again at Tasco and you can talk about some of the stuff that your takeaways. So always great. Excited for Tasco coming up in November as well. So for Coach Elias Ramos, the head women's soccer coach of the McKinney Boyd Broncos, I am your host, Coach Hector Cano. Thank you again for listening. Like, rate, subscribe, go on there, subscribe on YouTube, sign up for the live notifications. And until the next time, you know what to do. Keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on X at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening.